Hi, Terry Bolt here with Weeks Two's course-oriented video. So I'm going to talk about a few things for your homework, but first I'm going to start with a couple of comments about last week's assignment. I haven't quite finished grading, but I've graded many of them. So one thing to watch out for when you're doing the assignments is very often it requires you to have multiple things, right? So for example, you were supposed to have three different proposal ideas. Some of you had one proposal idea and a couple ways of looking at it. So just make sure you hit all the points. If it's telling you to do multiple things, check over the assignment, a little bit like any tactical writing assignment. When there are requirements, you want to check that you've actually satisfied all of them. So it's good to sort of go through that as a final check before you turn stuff in. Second, I had the anonymous survey, which is graded, but three of you did not actually answer any questions. I'm going to open it back up so that everybody can go back and do it. I will go ahead and grade it and give those three people zeros if that's really what they want. But maybe they had some difficulties or there's some problems. So I'm going to open it back up so that everyone can answer. Please go ahead if you skipped it or if you thought you might have had a problem, just check that you actually have answers in there. Since it's anonymous, right now I don't know who those three people are, but if I go in and grade it, it'll become obvious when three people have zeros who they were. So that's about it for last week's. I found your answers interesting, and I'm writing some comments, and I'll hopefully finish grading by tomorrow. The proposal ideas. One of the things that many of you will struggle with for this week's assignment, we'll come over that, is that we're going to be looking for opportunities where you can actually get funding, and some of your ideas were very vague, very hard to get to. And I was interested to see, I did not assign people to do SMART objectives, but that'll actually be one of this week's assignments. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So the chapter 2, I might actually post an updated version. I actually made some changes, but not a tremendous amount. I've posted posted the video for chapter 2. You should watch that. You should probably watch that before this one, but if you've already started this one, you can finish this and then get to that. There might be a few things that would help you from that video. So let's start with your first assignment, the loops assignment. So this assignment is going to be looking at the loops process from chapter 2, and you're basically going to be working through that process, leading to three distinct but interrelated outputs: a formal list of objectives, opportunities, and your preliminary stories. So I'm not going to read through this. You can read the assignment. I just want to hit on a few of the key points. So first, you may and probably will have to adjust your objectives. Very few of you had objectives where there was a clear, SMART-oriented objective. So if nothing else, you're going to have to add detail to make it SMART. But many of your objectives were not things for which you would be able to find funding. Some of you did talk about types of funding like going after Kickstarter or Patreon, those kinds of things. They're actually not going to be allowed for this assignment. So you're going to analyze whatever objectives you're looking at, but you have to be able to find an opportunity that you're going to identify by searching. I'll talk a little bit more towards the end of the video about how to do some searching ideas. But the opportunity must be a formal organization that is currently accepting proposals to which you have aligned your objective. This is the part of the assignment in the survey you were asked about, do you want to do real or hypothesize? We'll see later in the semester whether or not you're going to turn this in. It may not be practical, but I want everyone to go through the process of trying to find and working towards one that they could turn in. It's not make up whatever you want, because that's not the way most tactical writing gets to be done. You have to choose a target. The tactical technique will then try and get you to that. So you've got to find a formal organization currently accepting proposals to which you have aligned your objective. And so you might have to realign your objectives from where you were. Okay. It cannot be a crowdfunding platform. It can't be a generic link to an organization that might be aligned or might be sort of the kind of organization that would be interested in your stuff. There's plenty of organizations looking at sustainability, and there's organizations looking at homelessness. If those are your targets, you got to find somebody who's funding that stuff, not just somebody who's doing that stuff. Because in fact, you might be competing with the groups who are doing that stuff, trying to get funding. So you're going to have to think about how you're going to do that. Or you might end up partnering with them, but you got to start with, is there somebody out there giving out money to solve the problem you're trying to solve? So that might mean adjusting it. And the search, which I will talk about, right, this is a critical and very difficult part of the assignment. And I expect the searching and the alignment process as you iterate through ideas and searching to take 2 to 5 hours per person for this week. This is the biggest part of your time. what you're going to turn in. Once you've done that searching, right, you're going to turn in a SMART objective analysis going through the SMART elements. So it might be 5 or 6 sentences describing what your objective has become as it's been realigned, what the opportunity is in 3 or 4 sentences, and the URL to the actual proposal opportunity, and then a preliminary story, which is ideally 1 sentence. So you might be turning in 10 sentences this week, right? But it's going to take a lot of time to go do that searching. So take this seriously. If you want to learn about tactical writing and especially about proposals, finding those opportunities is a really important thing to do. So this assignment, I'm going to start opening it up. You can do this individually if you're not comfortable, if you don't know anybody, or you don't want to work with other people, or you can do a group of 2 or 3 people. You're not fixed on teams for the entire semester. For these teams, it's just to start giving people an opportunity to start working together. However, if your team has n members, 2 or 3, you have to find n loop output triples, right? So you have to find 3 objectives, 3 opportunities, and 3 preliminary stories. And so the goal as a team is not to split up the work so you each do a little bit less, but really to increase the effectiveness of the loop process and make it a little bit more realistic by having multiple choices of opportunities. So when you're doing searching, you probably will be doing some searching independently, but then you're going to come together and talk about them and try and figure out how to make these opportunities go together. The opportunities do not have to be related if you're doing teams of 2 or 3. They just have to be separate opportunities. It cannot be that you have one objective and you say, well, we'll take this objective, we'll go to this organization, and we can write a proposal using style A or style B. They have to be 2 different opportunities. You can take the same objective and go to 2 different organizations. That's perfectly fine. But you've got to find those organizations. If you're doing a team or a group, you should all be posting the same response, plus each team member is going to have a personalized 3 or 4 sentences about their effort in working the loops process and developing a response. I want to know what you did to contribute to the team's final success. There's also a separate discussion board for discussions, and there's going to be a separate journal, so I'll have some opportunities to put stuff together. So on the discussion board, if your team, there's going to be a separate discussion board just for finding team members. On that board, actually it'll be the same board all semester long. It's not going to be graded. It's just a place you can go and post that you're looking for team members. If you know somebody, you can try and call them out. Say you want to work together. You can also directly email people. That's fine. But if you found you have a team, I would like you to post that on the thing so that when I go to look for grading, I have an idea who is expected to be on a team. If you agree to be on a team and you don't deliver, that's not going to look so good. So we'll have to talk about how that'll happen as we work through the semester. So to turn in the assignment, you're going to post the output triple of your loops with 1 SMART objective, the opportunity, and the URL as already described. If you're a team, you're going to list all the people on the team and have as many triples as you have team members. If you found interesting ideas and you want to talk about others, you're welcome to post more than the minimum number of triples for your loops analysis, and maybe get feedback on those ideas as well. So this part of the assignment is due by 6 a.m. Thursday, August 31st. I know that sounds really early, but what I'm really viewing this is some of the students were turning stuff in right up to the last minute, so this is just really, really late Wednesday night. Instead of saying 11:59, it's 11:59 plus 6 hours, so you'll get stuff in. And this is going to allow time for the discussion. So each person uploads their assignment, even if you're part of a team, but there should only be 1 post in the discussion where you include everyone's name. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the discussion. So the discussion for this topic, in fact, the beginning part of the assignment is exactly the same text. But the important part is you're supposed to post here by 6 a.m. Thursday, August 31st, next Thursday. And then you begin the discussion phase. You can't see I don't want you to take part in the discussion until your team is posted, but because there'll only be 1 post per team, you'll actually be able to see other people's posts as soon as they've posted stuff. So the discussion aspect for this assignment is each person, not each team, but each person is to provide feedback to at least 2 other distinct teams. So there'll be 2 other posts that have triples. You're going to provide feedback to them. You can't post you cannot post to any team that already has 3 posted feedbacks. And this is really for me to ensure that everybody gets some level of feedback. Those of you who posted late in the discussion last time didn't get as much feedback because everyone is on the discussion forum trying to get their feedback out. The earlier your post, the more useful feedback you will get from people. So try and get your post up early, but then I'm going to spread it out by having at most 3 posts per team that's posted. So your discussion feedback should really comment on all 3 aspects of their post: the SMART analysis, the alignment between the objective and the opportunity they described, and their story. In doing the story, it would really be ideal if you could take a look at the URL, look at who the opportunity is being presented by, and sort of try to pretend you're the funder and then try and assess the story from that point of view. They're going to try and write the story from that point of view. You're going to try to respond to it from that point of view. And if you have anything else you think will help the team, go ahead, please share, because the goal is to try and make all of this stuff better. So that's that aspect of assignment. The last assignment for this week is your personal journal. And we're going to have multiple of these throughout the semester. This is a personal learning, and I want you to write about both the course material as well as your personal learning. So if in doing this you did a little bit of SWOT analysis to try and decide what objectives might be achievable, it'll reflect both in the class writing, what is SWOT, how do you do the analysis, and what you learned about yourself. And if you're in a team, obviously you would be doing some of the team dynamics for that. The assignment has multiple parts, and so I wanted, for example, to see you talk about each of the stages of the process. In particular, I want to hear something about your search strategies, your search discoveries, and I'll actually probably up this to add those things. Add something about your search discoveries, your search process, what you learned along the way. I actually recommend you write 3 to 5 sentences each day you work on this, and then put those sentences together, a couple of sentences, and then write the final summary, looking back as a reflection of what you were able to accomplish. So those are the assignments for this week. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about searching. So you're already probably all used to doing Google. I'm going to show you, actually I forgot to make a tab. Let's say I went in here and I wanted to look for grants for music festivals. So I've done that. There's actually, a bunch of places where you might go out and try to find these. One of the things that you might find useful, and you may know this, but just to make sure everyone does, if I go up here and I go to tools, I can look for things that are posted, say, in the past year. Because if I'm looking for things that are old, there might be a grant proposal from 3 years ago, and it might be the top result in Google. That's not really going to be that interesting. So use the results. You can go in and you can change the time. And so you can also use a custom search. I don't have to do a year. I can do within the past month, because the assignment is you got to find one that's accepting proposals. So if the submission for proposals closed May 1st, still not going to get you where you want to be. But this kind of thing where you can start going. As a search technique, I'll talk a little bit this more later in the semester. I actually recommend, as you're going through this, you first do a bunch of searching. Don't run down a rabbit hole and just choose, dig into these real quick. I recommend you actually make like a new bookmark process, and then bookmark this tab, right? As you open these up, bookmark them, and make up a sort of new type of bookmark just for this search, so you can have a whole bunch of them. You'd be surprised after you start going through this, you start finding all kinds of things, and then all of a sudden you're forgetting which one was where. I actually have the way I do my stuff, I might have 100 tabs open when I'm doing some of this stuff. But if you make at least a bookmark list, then you don't have to keep them all open. Your machine might get really slow if you do that. But then you can at least get into the keeping track of which ones were there. Okay, so you can do some basic Google searches. There's a couple of other places I was going to show you to make sure you know about them. One is called grants.gov. Grants.gov is a great place. This is where the federal government posts a ton of their things. You'll also see there's some very useful resources here, some grant writing tips, some how to get started on things. But one of the things we can do is we can go back in and we can go up and we can search their grants. So some of you are interested, for example, in sustainability. I can search for sustainability, and these are grants related to sustainability. You can sort of see some of them have closing dates. Most of them have closing dates that are in the future. It's just because of the way I've sorted stuff before. But you can go through these. You can look for various things. One of the things that you might want to do is when you're looking at these, you might be looking at this and say, I'm not qualified to go after these grants. And you as a person, you're a sophomore or junior in college, probably aren't. That doesn't mean it's not a good grant to think about. If it lines up with your objective, one of the things talked about in the chapter is you might have to figure out who would I partner with to make this successful. So if you find the right kind of grant for what you're interested in and you just need to find the right partner, that's okay. But you've got to have something to offer the partner. You can't have something where it's like, well, Terry could win this, but I have nothing to offer. That's not a partnership, right? That's just asking somebody else to do the work. So think about when you're telling your story, your part to what you would bring to the table to make this happen. And that could just be that largely you have a lot of passion about this project and you're going to work on the proposal. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about partnering later in the semester, but this will get you going. One of the places I often do, and we may end up doing some SBIRs, we were talking about doing real projects with real clients. I will choose 2 or 3 projects for the class, and everybody will be assigned to some teams to help with some of these. And 1 or 2 of those might be some of these SBIRs. So the DoD SBIR program has stuff that literally just opened up last week. In fact, they're just released. They're in the pre-release stage. And so some of these are places where you can go in. And they will actually tell you the kinds of projects they're looking for. So I know some people were interested in sort of mixed reality or AR kinds of things. Right? So here's a topic on displays for mixed reality. This depends more on the hardware side, but you can go in here and search by putting some words in here and look for these. If some of these are interesting, again, many of these can only be submitted by a small business, and chances are good you don't have your own small business yet. But if you find these that are interesting and you put these down as some of your topics, then I might go in and I might go out and try and find the partners. The last one, which I think might be useful for many of you, is the state of Colorado. In fact, most states have programs and funding. So if you're from another state and you want to try and do something for your home state, please go ahead and Google for programs and funding for your state. But you can sort of see here there are multiple kinds of grants. So one of you also talked about sort of art kinds of things, right? So here's a program where you can talk about how to get some money to get art in public places. I'm not going to go into details. So you have to read through these. I don't know for sure what's in this particular one. I'm not sure. Say it's one that's good, but look through these. Look for the kinds of things you might be able to do. And obviously, you each have your own ideas. So come up with interesting ideas, trying to figure out how to drive forward your search for opportunities that are aligned to your objective. Bring those two together to make an interesting preliminary story, and we'll see where that goes.